Hello again, everybody. We're back. I'm Dennis. That's Patrick. That's Eleni. Many of you may know us as Frenemies of the People by CBL. In some ways, it didn't make sense. In other ways, it might get us sued. I don't know. So we've decided that we have some terrible good news. We're no longer frenemies. We're can't wait sounds terrible. Now, for Eleni, it will always be sounds terrible, can't wait. It's really a little bit chicken and egg, like what comes first? Can you not wait for something that you know is going to be terrible, or is it terrible and you just can't wait? We couldn't really claim title to Sounds Terrible, Can't Wait, probably because Eleni made it too viral too fast. So the Queen of Terribleness just lost a little control of her brand. But by the same token, if this is confusing to you, our beloved audience, just know that we're embracing our karma, and we are meeting the zeitgeist, the times, with our new name, which is, producer Grace will have some dramatic music here, something like da 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 da. We are can't wait. Sounds terrible. And I know all of you out there in podcast viewer listener land can't wait either. It's confusing, isn't it, Eleni? But it's terrible. That's the most important thing.
Everything's terrible. Yeah.
We're just embracing our terribleness fully. Patrick.
I honestly couldn't wait for the rebrand.
You couldn't wait.
You can do the replay. You saw the beamingness of my face on the rebrand. I for one couldn't wait.
As a professor told me one time, I love to see the light shine upon previously vacant faces. Anyway, in terms of things being terrible, things are ever so slightly less terrible for Illinois pensions. And I think it's proof, thanks to procrastination, what can be achieved by just doing nothing, which is also a sort of karma. So according to Cranes, the unfunded liabilities of the state's 5 big pension systems have improved slightly for the fiscal year that ended June 30th, thanks to strong investment returns. So they did nothing to structurally fix the pensions, but the amount that they owed, the gap between the assets available to pay retirees and how much they'll be owed, fell to $143.5 billion, down from $143.7 billion. So, a 0.5 here, a 0.7 there. It starts to add up after a while, Patrick.
You know what I do find funny about the messaging around the billionaire class is, like, some of the billionaire classes are in fact these massive pension funds, which have lots of invested in the stock market. So as the stock market does well, so too do the pension funds and all the pensioners. But never let the facts get in the way of a slogan. So, if there were to be like a wealth tax or a unrealized gains tax, that would probably not be so well for the pension returns. But also, I think the state has embraced HODL, hold on for dear life, never sell. And that's a winning strategy. Just never sell. Just add to your portfolio. Never sell, folks.
Don't pass a reform. Just wait for the market to improve.
It's the classic way, let's not work ahead to plan and strategize on solutions. Let's just wait for them to fix themselves.
Don't kill the job. We have blue ribbon committees that are studying this, and
so many blue ribbon commissions and committees,
which were all pensionable activities as well. Really the service of the people.
Meanwhile, Cranes is also reporting that Mayor Brandon Johnson is offering a revamped version of his corporate head tax. So you'll recall, Eleni, that it was $21 per worker monthly tax on companies with originally it was proposed with 100 or more employees. So the compromise is to take that $21 a head tax and make it 33 a head. Now, they're increasing the size of the employer from 100 to 500, but it takes a little bit more explaining that way. And as I learned as a young guy in politics from a chief of staff who was chewing me out, if you're explaining, you're losing.
Well, I can't do math, but
It,
just just on its face, what you said doesn't compute. So if I'm not computing, no one's computing. And to your point, when you have to explain how that's better, when you're increasing the number per person, that's a losing. Like that's done. Like we should just erase this part of the podcast because this proposal is non-existent in the
but
ground.
I think it's a great story for the new Sounds Terrible brand.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is he going to charge Cook County the tax? They have more than 500 employees. So, like, I'm starting to like the creativity here. Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, I think they got 500. Park District, they employ more than 500 people. CPS, each one of those schools, revenue producer,
Oh,
opportunity.
no
I'm
more, no more adding things to CPS. I'm already forking over a lot over there, so we're good.
I think we'll have to make sure that the Can't Wait Sounds Terrible media empire stays at $4.99.
Hopefully, it
Well,
has
it's all up to you to get the incentives to waive the fee for employees over 500, but not yet at 700. It's creating a whole new growth opportunity.
Playbook says that the shift is aimed at appeasing progressives and some moderate Black Caucus members who worry that the $21 per worker monthly tax on companies would hit smaller businesses with thin margins too hard. So $33 per employee monthly tax, which they say will bring in $82 million. And I think send a great signal to other employers. We've talked before about the fact that this is actually like the mayor, like many mayors before him, is crazy like a fox here. This is an opportunity to kind of take the best of what worked in New York with Mamdani and double down and say, hold my beer. And along those lines, ELENI, the mayor apparently suggested, again, according to Playbook, that Mayor Brendan Johnson suggests the current standoff over his budget proposal echoes the infamous council wars in Chicago of the 1980s, when a group of white aldermen repeatedly clashed with Mayor Harold Washington, Chicago's first black mayor.
Yeah, I mean, it again continues to be a interesting storyline of how this is going to shake out for Mayor Johnson, because we're going into soon enough, though some have started, a new election cycle. And, first year is rough. It happens occasionally, more often than not. But, he really needs to deliver something solid this budget season in order to make some point or proof point to his voters that, hey, I'm reasonable, I can compromise, I can bring people together to vote on something that is decent. And just to the point of what you brought up earlier of the revised tax, the corporate head tax, that doesn't make any sense. I just don't know how we get to the finish line. And again, I saw a headline earlier today, about the potential cities shutdown, city government shutdown. We just got through a federal one. Now, that just the fact that language is out there right now is not going to bode well for the mayor and his potential reelect campaign that's essentially already kicked off. You might not know it, but it has.
Well, you certainly say that there's this somewhat moving number of 26-ish council members who are opposing him, and I would imagine that there's more than a few members of that group who look in the mirror and say, "You're a mayor." Patrick, what do you think?
Well, I'm not a math genius like Eleni, but 26 would appear to be a durable roll call problem in the council chamber. So I think each one of them, to that extent, right? You get elected deputy township roadway commissioner, and you're measuring the drapes in the Oval Office. So I think each of them are figuring out an exit strategy out of what appears to be a difficult budgeting cycle, and to come up with some ideas and say, I too cast the decisive vote on whatever budget compromise there is, right? Remember, out of the Affordable Care Act, everyone had the decisive vote, and all the ads ran saying that they either cast the deciding vote or opposed it on the deciding vote, all of that stuff. So I think there is a lot of political upside to be milked by these 26 individuals on whatever solution ultimately comes out of this.
And it'll also be interesting to see if they stick together. That's always a big determining factor of, what each of their issues are, and if there is anything that they unify on. I mean, I know there are some things, right? But at the end of the day, if they stay together, I mean, that's going to create an even larger roadblock for the mayor that is going to be difficult to overcome.
Are we keeping an eye on the job boards for city departments and administrators? I'm feeling like there might be some retirements, and maybe some expertise could be gained from those who have served on the city council. I'm just throwing that out there as potential for us to look for.
The comparison to the council wars is an interesting play. I would say most of the young voters that were a big part of the mayor's base in his successful win a few years ago wouldn't even know what that necessarily refers to. And in fact, I think Mayor Johnson was probably just a little kid. The height of the council wars was, 82, 83, 84, and having the grayest hair among the can't wait, sounds terrible crew here, and increasingly the rest of America. It really did, that era really did portray Chicago on a national global scale as being very racially divided. And in fact, if memory serves, the Wall Street Journal wrote a famous opinion piece calling Chicago Beirut on the lake. Okay. But again, if you're explaining you're losing, like, to the young voters and to his peers, they might not even totally have the connection to that. But it is trying to play. It's a little bit of a whistle, a little bit of a fade to a certain community that wants to make this future governing and the mayor's proposals and the upcoming mayoral race a racial issue, I think. Anyway, those were
I bet
some
if we
crazy
polled
times.
100 people under the age of 30 and asked them, "Do you know what Council Wars was?" they'd think it was a spin-off of Star Wars. I'd be like, I don't know. Is that a Star Wars movie?
It's funny that you say that, because during that time, Second City, and there was a prominent local comedian and actor who did a Council Wars, Star Wars satire, and it got a little bit of trend for a while in Chicago, and featured different aldermen as I think Verdoliak or Burke or Darth Vader. Like, it was all played out and it made sense. And some of those guys that were around back then are still monkeying around in government today. Anyway, we'll keep our eye on that. And I think that, Eleni, you're right. This, like a city shutdown, would be really bad for the mayor. But there's a lot of things that have been going the mayor's way. Ironically, most people wouldn't necessarily view it that way, but this is helping him solidify his base. The nonsense with ICE helped him solidify his base, and so if he can drag this across the finish line in some ugly fashion, which that's kind of where my money is, somewhere on the 30th or 31st, a really bizarre budget gets jammed through the city council. I think he comes out of this in halfway decent shape.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, I've been thinking this in my head, and now I will say it out loud to be recorded. But, I think I've seen at least a shift in his demeanor as mayor. That I think I will call it growing into the role more in the last few months than before. And I think there was a point in time where we didn't know if he was going to make that jump into that new role of being mayor. And I think we're now seeing it, which is good for him.
I agree. It's a terrible job, but he could keep it, perhaps.
Right. Why he wants it, no one will know. But yeah.
So I have one other thing to bounce off you all, and maybe it's better suited for the sounds terrible portion of Can't Wait Sounds Terrible, but maybe if this budget winds up getting litigated, the city can hire the lawyer that the Chicago Housing Authority used. So, according to Lizzie Kane in the Sun-Times, a lawyer hired by the Chicago Housing Authority revealed this summer that she used ChatGPT and failed to check her work when defending the Housing Authority in a lawsuit involving injuries to 2 children. And now her former law firm and that lawyer who signed off on the legal motion that cited a fake court case, thanks to AI, are being sanctioned. So Cook County Judge Thomas Cushion sanctioned Larry Mason, who heads the law firm, Goldberg Segala, with $10,000. Larry Mason who signed off, got fined $10,000. The law firm got fined $49,500 for improper use of artificial intelligence and false misrepresentations to the court. And the lawyer who used AI left that firm and has now started her own law firm, the Malati Law Group. So she's available to defend the city, probably at a reasonable rate and in a more efficient fashion using AI.
Yeah, I mean, that's just mind-blowing to me. I think we've discussed this on this podcast before, that, there's a way to utilize AI and ChatGPT to help with what you do, but it shouldn't be how you do what you do. And, not having cross-checked the simple case that is cited is truly concerning for that individual on many levels. Not just professional. So
I think the most unfortunate thing for her, Patrick, is that she's the one that got caught. I'm sure that this is happening as we speak. There are corner cutting lawyers, just like in every business, using AI to come up with, moronic approaches, moronic approaches was also one of the rejected titles of the podcast.
As was my suggestion for It's All About the Footnotes. And, as you know, over the years, putting together campaign material, they'd be like, what are you talking about over here? I'm like, well, it says on page 214 that that's not quite true. And, you can't rush doing a job correctly, and unfortunate for her. But I will say too, I think we talk about this for a little bit of enjoyment here, but like you think of all the other processes that go on in government where people are swearing an oath or saying, "Oh, I'm here testifying today at a plan commission and I'm under oath," and they're using a GPT summary. People, that's fine. That's what the computer said. But like, if you're saying it's you and you verify this, there's a lot of circumstances here where as society we're gonna work through this, but it's gonna be messy.
We might work through it. We might just keep spiraling downward
We're
into
just
the
gonna have more
abyss.
computers arguing with each other.
I think Eleni is continuing to just use AI to show up on this podcast in protest that it's not sounds terrible. Can't wait.
We got to figure out how to do that. That'll make things easier.
The other night, Monday Night Football did a cartoonized, almost real-time version of Monday Night Football on ESPN2. And I accidentally flipped on that looking for the actual Monday Night Football game. And I can't even wrap my mind around how they did that, but it would just be killing more brain cells to spend much time figuring it out. But Sully from Monsters, Inc. kept being the key player, making interceptions or scoring touchdowns. And it was a cartoon version of the Chargers versus the Eagles.
I'm more concerned that there's an ESPN2.
Oh, there's like 8 of them. It's sort of a running joke that they've embraced. All right, Producer Grace, as part of Can't Wait, Sounds Terrible, it's now time for It Sounds Terrible. So I think we should start with the Queen of Terribleness.
Ay, 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 so much pressure. I do think it's, I just want to add here that I received some feedback from previous colleagues on the podcast, and the feedback was, it's really nice to see, or this was said about me, it was then relayed to me, it's really nice to see Eleni being professional.
It just shows how you must behave in the rest of your human interactions.
Very alarming, but it's great feedback. So I would say this sounds terrible. In addition to this unprecedented, well, I guess it is somewhat precedented, the snowfall that we've gotten, which they're saying, I read somewhere, we haven't gotten this much snowfall this early in like 50 years or something. As a lovely and amazing resident of the city of Chicago, I really have enjoyed, this is our first, not our first time, but our first like big snowfall living on a residential street. And I got to witness my first dibs fight.
Dibs. I love it.
Just down the street from my, like literally 4 houses down. I was looking out the window because that's me. I'm the neighborhood watch. And I happened to see 2 people, and one woman had her like arms flailing in the air, and they were screaming at each other. And I went to check the mail, so I had to open the door so I could try to hear. But this dibs debacle is fascinating to see. I haven't seen it since I grew up in Jefferson Park. That was the last time, and it's just fascinating. And on that terrible note, also just the snow situation right now. Everyone, I appreciate, no one will be surprised, and I'm going on too long now, but I appreciate we're going to have a white Christmas commentary I'm hearing, but I'd be really happy if the snow just melted, and it could snow again, but all the snow's got to go, because just today up here on the northwest side, our side streets are just piled with snow, and trying to just get 2 cars down the street, if there's parked cars, it's a problem. So
it's like luging.
Yep. So there was a lot there, but it's all related to snow. So
and it's all terrible.
It's terrible.
There's some freezing rain in the forecast, and then there'll probably be more snow, and there'll be the slush and the city detritus. And so it'll be a gray Christmas. It'll be a gray, slippery, icy, cruddy Christmas
Great.
more than a white Christmas on your
So
block.
terrible.
Patrick, what's terrible for you?
Well, I think what sounds terrible is that Eleni and I do not have branded swag for this podcast. I think we're looking for someone to sponsor us. We'll take a sponsorship, and then she and I could wear our matching vests throughout the winter taping season. So I would just like to use this opportunity. Anyone looking to sponsor at least 2/3 of today's presenting podcasters, follow up with us. We'll send you our preferred vest makers. We each have a distinct style we prefer. We would appreciate that, and we'll give you first branding opportunity for the new show, as well as ongoing numerous to our new season under our new name.
I do have a message from Rico Snowplow and Muffler Shop, so that may be what it's about. So here's my terribleness report, and it brings us all back down to Springfield, Eleni's favorite place, perhaps without a driver. Republican State Representative Brad Stevens of Rosemont is among several lawmakers this year who've introduced legislation, according to the Tribune, that could bring self-driving Waymo taxis to Illinois. I love the driverless and the robotics. I think that's been well documented on the previously named podcast. Now, this is being introduced or being discussed at the same time that Waymo has done a voluntary recall of their software after, according to CBS News, Waymos have cut in front of school buses 20 times. And this has happened in other markets as well. NPR reports that it also happened in Atlanta. And so the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, which apparently still exists, opened an investigation earlier this fall in response to these media reports of Waymo autonomous vehicles that failed to remain stopped when approaching a school bus. So that all sounds pretty terrible. And I learned about, I've refused to get in these things. I know this is a big surprise to our many viewers as I continue to be the crazy old guy yelling at the lake. But earlier this year, I was on business in Phoenix, Arizona, which sounds pretty good right about now as Eleni's neighbors are fighting over dibs. And it wasn't a very heavy traffic, and I was on my way to the airport, but I'm in this line of cars that's not moving, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. What are these people doing? Are they picking up hitchhikers? What are they doing? It was a bunch of Waymo taxis, so I just got in a passing lane, and went around them, and they were just stuck in line, like other Waymos were blocking the Waymos, causing some kind of Waymo software situation. So not loving the driverless vehicles, and neither are school bus drivers in Austin, Texas. And all of that sounds pretty terrible. And if it's terrible, we can't wait for it. Can't wait. Sounds terrible. New brand. Can't wait. Sounds terrible fever. Catch it. Producer Grace is our producer of this dumpster fire. That was Patrick and Eleni. We'll see you next time.